1. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study, 1932 to 1972, USA. In this horrifying medical experiment, the U.S. Public Health Service studied the progression of untreated syphilis in 600 African American men without their informed consent. Even after penicillin became a known cure in the 1940s, the doctors intentionally withheld treatment. The subjects were told they had bad blood and were promised free healthcare, meals, and burial insurance. For 40 years, many suffered or died unnecessarily. Families were devastated by preventable illness and death. Public outrage exploded when the study was exposed in 1972. It led to major reforms in medical ethics and consent procedures. But the deep mistrust it sowed in communities lingers to this day. 2. Unit 731, 1930s, 1945, Japan. During World War II, Japan's Unit 731 conducted unspeakable biological and chemical experiments on Chinese civilians and prisoners of war. Victims were subjected to vivisections without anesthesia, frostbite tests, and exposure to deadly diseases. Thousands were tortured and killed in the name of scientific progress. The aim was to develop weapons of mass destruction. Many of the perpetrators never faced justice. Instead, they were granted immunity by the U.S. in exchange for their research data. The horrors of Unit 731 are rarely taught but remain one of the darkest chapters of medical abuse. Survivors' voices continue to push for global awareness. 3. The Stanford Prison Experiment, 1971, USA. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo set up a mock prison with volunteers randomly assigned as guards or prisoners. What began as a role-playing exercise quickly devolved into psychological abuse. The guards became increasingly sadistic, while prisoners experienced mental breakdowns. Though it was scheduled to last 2 weeks, it was stopped after only 6 days. The experiment revealed how power can corrupt and dehumanize. It raised ethical concerns over human experimentation and lack of oversight. The findings continue to spark debate in psychology and criminal justice. It remains a disturbing look into human behavior under pressure. 4. MKUltra, 1950s, 1960s. USA. MKUltra was the CIA's secret mind control program, where unwitting citizens were drugged with LSD and subjected to psychological torture. The goal was to explore methods of brainwashing and interrogation. Victims included hospital patients, prisoners, and civilians. Many never gave consent or even knew they were part of an experiment. The program caused permanent psychological damage in some subjects. It was officially shut down after its existence was revealed in the 1970s. However, many documents were destroyed, leaving unanswered questions. MKUltra remains a symbol of government overreach and ethical failure. 5. The Monster Study, 1939, USA. Speech pathologist Wendell Johnson conducted a stuttering experiment on 22 orphan children. Half were encouraged and praised, while the other half were ridiculed and belittled for minor speech errors. The negative group developed speech issues and lifelong trauma. None of the children knew they were being experimented on. The study aimed to understand the causes of stuttering but crossed severe ethical lines. Critics later labeled it the monster study due to its cruelty. The University of Iowa eventually issued an apology. This case is still cited as a violation of informed consent and research ethics. 6. The Aversion Project, 1970s, 1980s, South Africa. Under apartheid, the South African military targeted LGBTQ soldiers for forced sex reassignment surgeries and chemical castration. The Aversion Project was led by a military psychiatrist who believed homosexuality was a disease. Victims were given drugs, electroshock therapy, and psychological torture. Many were left scarred physically and emotionally. An estimated 900 individuals underwent these inhumane treatments. It was part of a broader system of state-sanctioned discrimination. The project's full scope only came to light decades later. It stands as a grim warning about state abuse in the name of ideology. 7. Project 4.1, 1954, Marshall Islands. After nuclear testing in the Marshall Islands, U.S. scientists secretly studied the effects of radiation on local inhabitants. These people were exposed without consent or understanding of what was happening. Some suffered burns, radiation sickness, and cancer. Instead of immediate medical care, they were monitored for scientific data. The experiment turned a humanitarian disaster into a research opportunity. Survivors reported being treated like lab animals. It wasn't until years later that the truth came out. The incident left lasting health effects and environmental damage on the islands. 8. The Milgram experiment, 1961, USA. Stanley Milgram wanted to test obedience to authority. Volunteers were instructed to administer electric shocks to a person, an actor, whenever they answered a question incorrectly. Despite hearing screams and pleas, many participants continued delivering shocks because an authority figure told them to. The experiment revealed how easily people comply with immoral orders. Though no real harm was done to the actors, participants were deeply disturbed by their actions. The study raised questions about ethics and deception in research. It's still cited today in discussions of power, conformity, and authority.